in the comments that you posted on the page, we really have to prove that we're not a one-man team. But that looks like such a tough challenge because all of our attacking prowess comes through Ponga, whether he's the decoy or if he's the main man. Even on half a leg, he was still attracting players out the back. So I think we need to make sure that we aren't getting Armstrong involved because he is going to be electric when he does come into it. It's just whether or not we give him the opportunity. The halves that we have been going with, I don't understand why Cogger got dropped for one, but then we have Gamble in who consistently makes mistakes, yet consistently gets picked the next week. We thought when he got dropped that might be the end of Tyson Gamble. It might have taken an injury or something spectacular to happen for him to come back into first grade. However, Cogger got dropped, and we still don't really know why. And Gamble's back in, and he made, I think it was about 6 or 7 errors that he made in that game. The kicking game in general does not exist. I think someone put up in the chat that we didn't even contest one of our kicks at all. They were put up about 10 meters out, 20 meters out at some point with no one running through, no one actually getting up and leaping. So our end of sets were horrific. I think the other team completed at 100%, and we had only completed one set. So that again just shows how little punch we have going through the middle, and then no finishing whatsoever. So I don't know where this rant's going, but Peter Parr came out today and said, I'm sticking up for my medical staff here. They made the right call on Ponga. He made the right call. The coach made the right call. Him injuring his foot has nothing to do with his hip injury. Yes, he had injections going into the game, but that was just to make sure that he could play through any potential pain that might come up through the game. And I'm listening to these comments going, well, if we know that he's injured, if we know he requires injections, why are we playing him? It's like we can't suffer for 2 weeks, let him rest, let him heal, and then get him back in there. Now we have to suffer for months without our key player. The article that came up around it being a $7 million problem is incredibly true. All of our cap is wrapped up in one player who's not going to be there for this whole season. If you go back and have a look at the seasons that have passed when Ponga was signed, he has not played that much. Last year, we were quite fortunate. And yes, 10 in a row. We're still leaning on the coattails of 10 in a row. But now it's time to actually, change needs to come from the selections. Change needs to come from the transparency of the club. Because for Peter Parr to come out and say, no, I agree with the medical staff and letting him play, you can tell that their backs are against the wall. Then there was another article today about Price and Hastings having a bit of a tiff at training. So you can tell tensions are incredibly high at Newcastle, and no performance like that. And Hetherington, again, in the change room, just echoes those sorts of things, those frustrations that are happening. When teams are in a funk and when teams are staring down tough times, that's when you realize what type of players you have on your roster. And unfortunately, it seems at the moment, we do not have the guys that have the mental steel to get through this lull. And that's all I have to say on that.
I don't know where to attack this because that is
I kind of
a
went
very,
all over the
very
shop there,
good
but I've
rant.
got so many thoughts pinging through my head, and I don't want to just sit here and rip shreds off the club that I adore, but it's really hard when they keep making silly mistakes.
In other words, you don't want to be me.
Can you just quickly say what you called Adam O'Brien on the little League of Inches write-up? I just want to hear the voice say it so it's not just in my head.
Look, I put that through hoping that Joel would edit it, and it was dictated as well. So the spelling, like the grammatical mistake went through as well. I'm reading it going, oh no, I should have typed it and exactly what I wanted it to.
Can you just say that sentence just once? Just once.
What was it? He's a fuckhead and he's
a
grossly
dumb fuck.
mismanaged the team and players. Dumb fuck, was it?
I do apologize for that one. I was just so busy. I had to quickly get the post out, and that is my bad there. So you know what though? Most people took it well. Like most people were actually like, "Yeah, Jez, give it to me. You can let us know your thoughts." So
because the rest of it was well
in a
written.
way, it turned out pretty well for you. I think there was one or two
under the collar after the Bulldogs pulled our pants down. And the thing that annoyed me most about that Bulldogs loss was the arrogance of the Bulldogs players acting like they've beaten a top 4 team. You beat the Knights. Calm down. Do that week in, week out, and then you can act like that. Jesus. Someone needs to punch Mahoney.
But the Knights won 10 in a row.
Reed, they need to
What do
punch
you
him in the
mean?
chin. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, well. Hetherington got pretty close to his chin, I'd say.
Oh,
I thought that was a funny
he
video.
didn't look very
watching
tough in that tunnel, did he? Without his forwards to
No.
hide behind. I'm not a fighter though, so I don't care.
Has anything come of that at the moment, or is that still just?
Yeah, Hetherington got 1 week.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
And they cited Reed, but then they said it was for his on-field carry on, that's got to be a first too. Like that's an absolute cop out. They're making up rules as they go there again.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's not new.
I want to ask you another question while you're on this rant, Jez. I want about what you've just mentioned. The news this afternoon came out about Will Price and Jackson Hastings, which whether it's his own fault or not, I don't know. People can start to have their own opinions on that one. I don't want to go out too publicly about that because of certain things that a few of you already know about. But it seems to follow Jackson Hastings wherever he goes. And there was talk on NRL 360 tonight that it might be a ploy to try and push him out of the club. They think it's a manager has leaked this because it happened last week and sort of had already gone. To bring it up now is kind of strange timing. But my thing to that is, if that was the case, why would he be playing ahead of Cogger at the moment when Cogger would then be your future halfback for the club? And in my opinion, from what I watched, he's your best number 7 at that club right now. So do you think Jackson Hastings, it's just an unlucky thing that's happening to him at the moment, or there's a little bit of smoke there?
You kind of make your own luck, don't you, whether it's good or bad? And he has a bit of a reputation of being a bit of a hothead and getting under the collar of other players. I don't mind if there's intensity at training. They are fighting for spots. They are genuinely fighting for spots. Well, if you're Adam O'Brien, they're not fighting for spots because he just picks whoever the bloody hell he wants. But for someone who's over here...
Not fair.
Yeah, well, the boys play well. For someone like Will Price, who is pushing for a first-grade spot, who has talent to be able to do that, I think that's a bit of a blowback. And if the press or the managers or whoever it is going after Jackson Hastings, they're going after the wrong bloody half. I'll tell you that. They need to direct their anger and angst towards the other one to try and move him along because, yeah, I'll tell you who I'd pick every week.
It seems like Hastings
have a bit of
is
a gamble
scapegoat for any sort of criticism too. Probably because he's copped so much of it in the past, just for, anything that goes around. But, like there's obvious problems. I don't really think it's him, but regardless of what comes out of the Knights, it's like, oh, what's Hastings doing wrong at the moment? Where obviously Gamble right next to him pretty blatantly, is the issue majority of the time. And if it's not him, like I'm pretty sure Adam O'Brien's got some things to say himself, but what's Hastings doing these days? Like you got to feel for him at the same time. Like you could imagine that he'd want out as well if it's just relentless.
Yeah, but he's got nowhere else to go. That's the only thing. None of them do. None of them have anywhere else to go. Like no one's fighting for these players.
Yeah, there you go.
But even our forwards are getting caught up in this. Like the Safidis have had a real lackluster year. They are playing nowhere near their potential. We have no punch through the middle, and it is getting just so obvious and just so frustrating watching them play week in, week out. You have a couple of guys that are playing like they want to be there. Then you have a couple that, I don't know, didn't have a Red Bull before the game and just seem real flat.
Leo Thompson looks good, but he's, one of 4 that you
And I don't know what Croker's done wrong. He needs a starting position. But anyway.
Yeah.
The eye-opening thing for me is, as you said, Jez, it seems like at the moment O'Brien is living in the past in a way when it comes to last year's 10-game run, and he thinks he can continue that on. I was listening to the pre-show before the game, and I'm not sure if anyone else heard it, but he literally said the reason he brought Gamble back in as that late change for Cogger was because of that side. I think it was the left side, I'm pretty sure. He goes, he'd be the only left side player from last year, so he wanted to make it so there was a little bit of familiarity in that side. I'm just thinking,
was this the side that they stacked with like Lucas, Tuala, and who's my centre? The oh god, the bloke who I hope to never see play centre for the Knights ever again. Strawberry blonde, Adam's mate.
Jenkins
came from the Panthers. Jenkins. Yeah, let's load up that side against Kickow.
Yeah, silly.
I want to relieve Jez because it's hard. But boy, Jesse, do you have anything else to say? What you're watching from the Newcastle Knights at the moment, and just act like Jez isn't here. It's all good just to speak your mind
Yeah.
and what you think honestly of the Knights.
I have thick
Look,
skin, and I've
a lot
probably
of-
already thought it, so go for it.
A lot of what like, obviously, you've got everything right to say regardless, but a lot of the stuff that I look at is honestly, it's Supercoach related and it's just a bunch of shit. So, it does translate quite well to points when someone's doing pretty bad. Like,
KPP.
much as you want. Yeah, he's a weapon. He's an absolute monster. So keep doing what you're doing, Piss Paul. Loving it. But it feels like the best thing that Adam O'Brien's ever done with the Knights is that 10 in a row, and it is really holding him back from progressing. It's like, cool, we had this thing work so well for such a long time last season. Whatever formula we had, we have to keep doing the same thing. It's like, no, you don't. That's end of season stuff. It's completely different now. It's a new year. You've got different players. Stop trying to make that happen again. Like, you can make it happen. Like, you definitely can. It's not going to be the identical to how it was last year. And now with no Ponga, it's definitely not going to happen at all. So, and that was another risk. Yeah, take him and run. No receipt. But yeah, now
Jenkins?
Who?
Morgan
What,
Harper.
Harper? Well, Jenkins plays in the. Oh, yeah, probably not. But yeah, now obviously, completely unnecessary risk of playing Ponga injured has now just cost the Knights any sort of chance they would have had to stake any claim to 8, if there was one to begin with. It's going to be a lot of little too late thing. I'm keen to see how Armstrong goes, but it's very hard to replace someone like Kalen Ponga in general. I don't think any club can comfortably replace him if they ever lost him. So, yeah.
It's a shame because he's
good
out for
timing.
Origin as well. I was kind of hoping he would play Origin this year.
Yeah,
Yes,
would have been nice to see, but not that
Look,
worried about Sporting Blues.
Your brother's not here tonight to give it to Jez, so I'm hoping you're going to be nice. I left you till last on purpose here. Take it wherever you want. I'm just going to ask you your thoughts.
Be better than Adam, because Adam's rubbish at it. He reckons he's good, but he's rubbish. Come on.
It's interesting you said you were surprised how low they were on the ladder. I'm not at all, and I'll tell you why, and I won't be like my brother and just be like, I fucking hate the Knights. So last year, the whole like 10 in a row
Adam, is
thing,
that you?
Yeah. It reminded me very much of Parramatta's 09 season. They had lackluster halves and they had a fullback that was playing phenomenal football and took them all the way to the grand final. Now, in 2010, Parramatta didn't even make the 8 because teams just went, well, we need to put numbers on he who we do not mention, and teams did it.
You can mention him.
Yeah, they've just numbered up on Hayne. They worked it out. He was where all our points were coming from, right? So I thought to myself, that's exactly what's going to happen in Newcastle this year, and that's exactly what happened. Before the season started, I thought they were going to be 1 from 6 because I tipped the Raiders originally to come bottom, but that hasn't worked out well. When they got beat by the Raiders, I went, right, they'll be very lucky if they win a game for 6 or 7 rounds. Now, they beat Melbourne's reserve grade side by 2 points. They haven't looked anywhere near the side they did when they won their Italian games last year. And that goes back to the fact that also their halves can't create anything. If Ponga's not doing it, their halves aren't doing nothing. Their forwards pack's not making enough meters. Like, I'm not surprised at all. I had them falling out of the 8 this year. I didn't think it'd be such a massive downfall. Like with Ponga out now, it's going to be huge.
I was about to jump in and say, like, I understand having them just outside the 8, but no one predicted that they would be this bad, considering what happened last year. We only got, like, to end that streak was the Warriors, and they did towel us up. But then how's this fall from grace so big? And it's because we rely on one player.
But you have a look at the teams they beat in that run too. Like, let's be honest. And I said they'd be 1 from 7, 2 from 7. Like, they're not far off that. Like, when you look at the teams they got this year and then the teams they had in that run, it's the same as the Sharks. The 2 years they've finished second or whatever, they played all the bottom 8 teams twice. They played the top 8 teams once. They played half of those top 8 teams at Shark Park, and then they got bundled out of the final by week 2 every time because they couldn't compete with the top teams like they couldn't during the year. Like, you got to take all that. And I know it's hard when it's your team because you just want to be like, yes, we've just run a 10 in a row and you look at all the positives. But when you're, not that I know a lot of Knights fans that can sit there and talk about footy genuinely either.
Oh, don't get me started. You should see the Knights group page. They are delusional.
Yeah. I got a couple of mates and I'm just like, mate, stand back. And like, I love Parramatta, but I'm the first to say Parramatta are a shithouse. Like, so I just think when you take it all into consideration, I'm not that surprised where they are. I don't know. For me, they're about where I thought they'd be. And now with Ponga being injured, like they're done. Like Parramatta's done. Knights are done. You lose that player in your team.
And all we can say is up the Waz. Let's go.
The Waz.
Waz Nation.
Yeah.
Let's move on from the Newcastle. I just want to say, I bet you right now this will open up the debate the next couple of weeks. Someone will run it. Was the re-signing of Kalen Ponga really worth it for the Knights because of blah, 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 blah. And it'll definitely happen. And when it does, we'll run it as well on the show. So just wait for that one.
Because it's our only source of joy. So yes.
Just one more quick thing on that. Ponga, like until this year, I think was the highest paid player in the league, 1.4 million a year.
I think he still is.
Still is. Newcastle have nowhere near got their value for money for that. Not even close. Like,
No.
There's so many other players that come under scrutiny for output and money and all that sort of stuff. Ponga's hasn't even come anywhere near close to delivering them anywhere near that. They've made the finals twice. They got beat week 1, and then last year they got trounced out by the Warriors in week 2, I think it was. Like, I just don't. Yep. The amount of games he sat out and the results on the table for your highest paid player in the league, I don't know why there's not more questions asked around that.
Well, that's why that article came out today around that $7 million headache that the Knights have. So people are asking the questions, but it hasn't come probably soon enough. But as I said, he's been our only source of joy. So leave him alone.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say that. To be fair, he won him 10 games last year by himself. And then I think the 2 games they've won this year, he was pretty much man of the match in both of those games and played a huge role in them winning that. So it's sort of like, yeah, okay, he's not there, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, okay. Look, Mika, we're going back to you for this one because we all, every Wednesday morning, I ask the question to the boys in the chat. What do you want to talk about this week? Got anything for the agenda? Mika has fired up and he wants to talk about the bunker. Who would have thought the bunker would be under the microscope for another week? But Mika's going to come at this, I feel like, with another angle. So fire away.
I'm actually all for the bunker, and I'm seeing so much talk these days about how they review every try and when the bunker steps in and out, blah, 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 and how it shouldn't happen. It's like people forget how bad things were before the bunker. Like, the catalyst to bringing the bunker into reviewing every try was in a late game of the season, and it might have even been a final. A South player scored a try, and the ref gave it, and when it come up on the big screen, his leg was like 1.5 meters over the dead ball line before he put the ball down, like blatantly obvious. And from that point on, they went, yeah, we should have been able to review that and take it off him. Like, can you imagine getting to a grand final and winning a grand final and or losing a grand final, and the try is given and it's blatantly obvious that someone's dropped the ball and that was a match-winning try with 5 seconds to go, and then for the rest of your life and all those players have to watch the replay of that ball being dropped and going, well, it wasn't even a try. Like, can you actually imagine that happening? And there's every possibility it could, because the amount of tries that get overturned now is like huge, and the amount of refs calls that get overturned because we find out they made the wrong call. Like, I just think people get so wrapped up in everything wanting to be fast and flowing. The idea should be to get the calls right. That's what we're after. And if we don't use the bunker, we would be the only top-level sport in the world that would be turning our back on technology. I still can't comprehend why we don't let the bunker call on forward passes. I get there'll be ones that you can't quite call on, but the ones that are blatantly obvious, like, you should be able to call them, and then the ones that are too hard, you kind of just, like they do now when they have insufficient evidence. I think, like, I just can't comprehend people wanting to turn their backs on it, because, like, the amount of wrong calls we will see and then have to see the replays of, blows my mind. Even Joey, just look at it twice in real time and move on. No, that's one of the weirdest things I've ever heard in my life.
It's a
I
very
think the
90s way of
frustrating-
thinking of refereeing rugby league. That's what Andy
Yeah.
Jones's comments are. It's stick with the old school. We like it fast. We like it loose. I agree. I like things being ruled correctly. I think it's the time out of the game that probably frustrates us. I know watching the game at the ground live, and it can take somewhere up to nearly 4.5 minutes sometimes to get a decision. So I guess that's where people get frustrated at the intervention that's happening from the bunker. But at the end of the thing, you'd like to think that the right call is made. I'll take you back to the Roosters game against the Knights. They deemed it a knock on, even though the Knights player knocked it back towards his try line and Kalen Ponga picked it up cleanly. Then it was ruled a knock on without actually touching a Roosters player. So the Roosters got the ball back, and that even went up to the bunker. So I think there are still mistakes that are going to come from the bunker, but I agree with you that they should be ruling on blatant forward passes, because every man and his dog that watches the games on the weekend can tell by the telecast that that ball went forward. And
Yeah.
most of the tries that wingers score are cutout balls that go forward.
Yeah. And I know they'll get stuff wrong still. And I mean, they are humans still making the call. And I think there's ways around that. I think the same person should be in the bunker for every game. That should be their job for the round or whatever, because you'll get more consistency that way. But if we don't have the
another
bunker,
referee that's been dropped.
yeah, if you don't have the bunker, there will be more wrong. We will have more wrong that we will have to live with because we will see the replay.
Yeah.
It was brought in to
And-
overturn the howler, but I think some people might think it's controlling too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just when you watch anything that doesn't have any kind of level of video refereeing, it's immediately frustrating when one thing goes wrong. And I think people have kind of short memory about when there wasn't any kind of video ref and things would go against them. And be calling for some kind of bunker or referee decision or video ref to review anything. Like you're literally calling for it. And now that it's there, obviously it's been altered so many times since its introduction. And the lines have been blurred for so many calls. And like, if you're going to have that kind of level of intervention, then open it up for everything. Forward passes being a pretty blatant one, because the amount of stuff that happens off a forward pass, you can get a whole set after a forward pass. You can get a try straight after the most blatant forward pass in the world, but they're like, oh, we can't go back and look at it. And I remember last year when players were inducing penalties so they could contest the call. Like they could literally go and be like, oh, I want to challenge that. And they'd hold them down in the ruck for it. And it's like, if you have to go to that extent to get the game to stop so they can have a look at a pass that happened 2 sets back, like that's just not right. They've got all the time in the world to sit there and go, okay, even if it's in the same thing, like, okay, the game's continued. There was that thing for Nikora a few weeks ago when he got suspended where they literally pulled it back like 5 minutes back, being, oh, he high tackled someone, you got to put him in the bin. So like they're obviously watching things that's happened minutes ago. They're not looking at it, oh, it's just happened, but we've lost it, you got to keep continuing. They're continuously reviewing plays that have already happened, looking for problems. But when there is a problem, i.e. a forward pass that leads to a try, they just let it go because they can't rule on them. So it doesn't make any sense where what they can rule on and what they can't. Like if you're going to do anything, then just open the whole thing up and say, if there is an issue, if there was foul play or if there was something that happened against the rule, it will get ruled on at any point if you've already started to do it. So I just don't understand where they're going to stop.
How do you rule on knock-ons and like knock-ons and bat-ons are the same thing as a forward pass? Like they're still trying to rule on the direction of the ball, yet they seem to be able to rule on that.
Yeah. Well, then they go, oh, they look where the player was when it happened, and then they go, oh, it still had the momentum of going backwards, even though he's sprinting fucking 30 k's an hour. So
today's equivalent of them giving away a blatant penalty so it gets checked is the taking a dive. Like lots of players are doing it now. If there's any sort of contact in the line, they die and they make a big deal out of it. So the on-field referee or the linesman, because, there's still 2 linesmen on the field, don't forget, see someone on the ground and go, oh no, we need to look at this play. We need to go back and check it. So that's what frustrates me at the moment.
Someone spoke about the 10 meters a second ago. Let's just, while you're on linesman and that, did the linesman stand back with the ref at 10 meters, or are they both looking at the ruck? Because I feel like the linesmen are back at the 10 meters.
I thought
Yeah,
one
I
was
thought-
with the ref and one was.
Yeah, I thought they should be too, but I don't know if that always happens. Maybe I need to watch better. But I feel like the 10 meters, it shouldn't be up to the bunker to call that. There should be a linesman in line, and as soon as someone's offside, linesman goes, yeah, they're offside. Bang, done. Like, it shouldn't be that hard. Shouldn't be that hard.
Shouldn't be.
But that's
No, it shouldn't
what
be.
we were talking the other
That's-
week.
It shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah.
And that's
That
why
goes
people
back to
crash
what
I was
shit
gonna
so
say-
hard.
All the linesmen have to worry about
Yeah,
these
sorry.
days is putting their flag up when someone goes near the line or if they make a conversion. They're not making calls.
No.
It's because they manage the game. They don't ref it. We're the only professional sport in the world where the refs aren't referees. Instead of just blowing the whistle and calling the rules like a referee should, they manage the game. We're the only sport in the world that does it. I digress.
reckon one thing I want to say is I think you're giving the bunker way too much credit. We have seen some howlers just going back to last weekend that Nelson Asafa Solomona clearly pushes the Storm player and assists him getting into the in goal for that try. I think it was Sean Blaw. And they looked at it and ruled it a try when by the letter of the law, if we're talking black and white, it was a no try. And
Yeah.
this
What
is
about
the
the
sort of
trip?
stuff I think that's really...
What about the trip?
And
He blatantly tripped the bloke.
Tedesco blatantly trips and they don't pick it up. Like, this is the stuff when we talk about the bunker that people are getting over because they cannot get the most simple things right. And they have a chance to look back over clips, and they're still getting it wrong. Where I would rather, as a fan, the referee makes the call on the spot. And if he gets it wrong, he gets it wrong. Like, I know it won't ever happen again because we're at that time where we need to have video refs. We need to have the bunker. I understand it. But you need to have people in the bunker that is actually competent at doing their job. At the moment, we don't have people that are actually competent doing it. We're having referees that are getting dropped and then they're moving into the bunker as some kind of like reward. It's crazy.
That's
wrong.
it. You misdirect and you anger in the wrong spot. It shouldn't be at the bunker and the bunker process. It's at the person that's in the bunker and the fact that they're never held accountable for their actions or when they get those howlers wrong.
Well, I'm also angry at the process because on the weekend, again, we had an incident. I forget which game it was, but we were all sitting there watching the TV for it felt like 2 minutes as the kicker was trying to put the ball on the tee. So they're clearly looking at it. And then the referee stops it, blows his whistle. We've got to go check it. And then they spend another 2 minutes checking it again. I'm like, you just spent the time checking it. You don't need to go over everything again. Just tell us what you've seen. Show us the replay once. Move on.
It's 2 minutes, mate. So what? Get another beer. Like, what would you prefer? They get the call wrong, and you're going to whinge about it for a week, saying, "Oh, they got the call wrong." Like, it's 2
We
minutes.
need more KFC commercials. You won't be so
Everyone's
mad.
so rushed all the time, man. Just chill out. And enjoy the footy.
Remember
That's
dial-up
another one of
internet?
my pet
I'm on
hates.
KO,
that
mate. We don't get any
You were
ads.
patient.
We're watching ad-free footy.
That's it.
Oh, you just get
Yeah,
the
it's-
pauses constantly.
It's just the execution of the bunker that's been a problem. You know, like you can easily get it right. It doesn't seem like a very hard thing to do in hindsight. Like, just thinking about ruling a game of footy and just getting it right, but there's always a problem. So yeah, it's just VAR in every code on earth, man. You can't get away from it. Look at the Premier League. It's a fucking shambles every single week. But you think it's such a black and white thing. And, we're still talking about offsides regardless and drawing little lines and crosshairs trying to make things happen. When it's like that, when you're splitting hairs to find a problem, let the play go on, I would say.
Yeah, you can understand those ones.
Yeah. But
Anyway, let's stop talking about the bunker because I'm actually over the bunker talk, the free talk for a week. I want to ask you guys, at the start of this year, I think everyone had as a collective that these three teams would probably be the bottom three teams, and that's the Dragons, the West Tigers, and the Canterbury Bulldogs. I want to ask you, first of all, which team has improved the most? And then I want to ask you, you're throwing me off with your laughter. What have I done that's throwing you?
No, I'm laughing at our predictions and just how wrong we were.
Yes.
And just how farcical that is because both of our teams suck.
And then second part of this question is, after you say who's improved the most so far, put your coach's hat on. If you could go in right now and take over one of these three teams for the next 2 years, which team would you take over? I'll give you boys some time to think. I'll go first on this one. I'll change things up. I think so far the team that's made the most improvements is the Canterbury Bulldogs as a whole, as a football club. It looks like they just seem like a very well-rounded team where even when they're having their off days, they sort of still look like an actual football team, which we haven't been able to say for some time with the Bulldogs. If they're not on, they're getting beat by like 50, 60 points. So they're still having some moments in games, but they're still able to get through those moments and push on and be in contests, which we haven't seen for a number of years. Now, if I was a coach, the team I actually want to be in charge of is the West Tigers, in my opinion, because they've got such a good group of young players coming through that I reckon give them this year to blood them, get used to the NRL week in, week out sort of tortures that comes with it. And then moving forward, like the Fainu brothers, Galvin, etc. What a great looking next couple of years for the West Tigers. When you talk about all these kids, Buller as well, haven't even talked about Dream Buller. I think there's plenty of really good things happening there at the West Tigers. Jez, what about yours? What's the team that's improved the most, and then the team you'd like to coach?
It's going to be very similar to yours. I think Canterbury, you're right there. I don't see them getting blown off the park like what they were last year. I think the Knights put 60 on them or something, and that was all the talk when we played them last time. This was redemption. Yeah, okay, whatever. I think they're finally starting to click into gear a little bit more. They're probably finding a style of play that suits them and their players. It also helps that Kikau has had an amazing couple of games and has remembered that he can just run through brick walls. So that certainly helps. I think Crichton has made a difference with meters out of their own end. And I think you'll probably see the Fox maybe pull his finger out a little bit too because Crichton's there. And he'll probably want to try and compete with him. So meters out of their own end has been pretty good. I think coaching the West Tigers would probably be the most fulfilling one because of those young players, because of those guys coming through. Buller is so exciting. Lockie Galvin, you can see a lot of talent in there as well. There's a little bit of dead wood that you probably need to clear out, i.e. Clemmer, those guys. You could probably move those guys on. But then you've got your young guys coming through that actually look like they want to play for the club. They want to be there. They want to play first grade NRL. So that in itself is exciting as a first grade coach.
Mika, what do you got for us? Stop looking at Pornhub.
No, I was replying to Kurt.
Getting late, not movie ready.
I'm still not sold on the Bulldogs. I don't know. Guess we'll see. I don't know. I don't know what you want me to say.
It's not about who you're not sold on. I want to know who you think he has improved the most.
Oh, sorry. I got distracted because you're talking about the Bulldogs then. Who's improved the most? Out of all the teams.
Out of the Bulldogs, Dragons, and Tigers.
Tigers.
Dragons. I think they're playing tough footy like a Flanagan team. I've actually tipped them this week. I think they've all actually improved compared to last year, but I'm still not sold on the Bulldogs. Tigers, I still think will be up and down. I just think the Dragons are starting to put it together better out of those three. There you go. I got there in the end.
Now you're a coach for the next couple of years. Which club would you like to take over and why?
Probably the Bulldogs because I think they've got most pieces of the puzzle in their roster. They need a halfback and a good front rower, whereas Dragons is a pretty good roster too. Yeah, I just think. Yeah, but they're about to lose Lomax and they're a bit younger, I guess. So, which is. So even the Tigers have got a heap of young players that are going to go well, but they still lack. Actually, no, I ain't coaching the Tigers because fucking Luai's going there, and that's going to be an absolute train wreck. So Tigers, you're going well now, but you're about to go downhill very quickly. I'll go. If I could coach, it'd probably be the Bulldogs because I'd have to tell Reid Marnie to pull his head in then too.
Thanks, Gus, for that one.
Punched firsthand, which is also good.
Yeah. I wonder what he's like at training. I wonder if he's the same and his teammates are just lining up to go, mate, we're going to put one on you very shortly.
Isn't he a good bloke?
Jesse,
I've heard that he's actually a really good
he
bloke.
is.
But he's just a grub
Off the
on the field, a little chirper.
He's
Yeah.
top.
It's
Like
nothing
that
against
white line fever.
Yeah. Any little player that now mouths off continuously since the no punch rule because they know they're not
Yeah.
going to get punched, it annoys me. And Reed's
That's all
just
they
the
need,
worst at
eh?
the
Just
moment.
one punch. Just to straighten them out.
Go on, Jesse.
I,
Give us
I
yours.
would say out of the three of them, like they all in their own right have improved over previous, seasons. I would say, considering they're not as much of a walkover anymore, the Bulldogs, obviously, they can test pretty much every single match they play. Even if they lose, it's not by a lot. Like they always seem to be in it, which is good because they usually roll over and just sort of let 50 go past them. I don't know about the Dragons, to be honest with you. They're still as inconsistent as I always think they are. Obviously, I feel like a lot of it's got to do with the form of Lomax. And then, bringing Flanagan in as a fresh start, they kind of, you're going to get some players performing at a bit over their usual anyway. So I would say, I don't know, I'm just never really too fond of the Dragons. And the Tigers, I consistently tip the Tigers to be the Spooners. So obviously, they're doing a lot better than that this season. I'm pretty comfortable going, yep, you can always walk the Tigers. But no, they're also like the Dogs too. They're making it a bit harder for people. But you look at the Dogs and you think when you've got a roster that you go back 3 years, half of them were Penrith. You'd have to expect them to be better than they have been. Like you can't stack the club as much as they have with the plan that they've had for so long. Just with staffing as well, with the quality of the players, like you would actually be expecting them to be doing better than they currently are. It's taken them a while to find their stride considering the quality they have compared to the other two teams. The Dragons are full of just proper deadwood. Like they need to sort themselves out to be long anywhere actually, but like they're going to lose Lomax. Terrell Sloan's kind of found a bit of form himself as much as we kind of knock him in the preseason. So like there's some things going, but not enough. If I was going to coach any side, I'd have to agree with Mika. I think that the Bulldogs they're not far off where you kind of want them. Dragons, it almost seems like they need to do a bit of a rebuild coming up. And the Tigers, I think it's a long plan still ahead. Like I think Benji's got some good things going. He's got some young prospects that are coming up that are playing quite well, to be fair, and they're going to for a while. But it might take him a fair few years to get him as competitive as he'd like. But I just honestly, I don't feel like the Bulldogs are far behind where they'd want to be. It won't take much. It's almost
if they get a halfback, as Mika said, and a prop, I'd honestly have that roster, a top six roster in this competition, and they could really do some damage. So
yeah,
they've just got to sort some things out and just find that halfback, which is at the moment the current market is very, very hard. There's nothing around, so it'll be interesting what they can do. I just want to see him give Sexton a go because I just feel like with them playing on the front foot at the moment, getting that opportunity to do so, that suits Sexton's game down to a T. So just let him have a go because I just think Hutchinson is just sort of a step behind in a way, and he's just sort of there to put people where they need to be, which is working at the moment. But I just don't think it can take the Dogs to that next level that they need to produce. Boys, tomorrow is Anzac Day, obviously. And obviously our start of our Anzac round for the rugby league. We get 3 games this tomorrow, which is the first. They've split up the Warriors and the Storm clash that normally happens down in Melbourne. They both get a chance to host home games now, which I cannot wait for. Jez, can you just talk to us a bit about the day itself, first of all, Anzac Day, and what it actually means to not just yourself, but obviously it's a huge event. It's something that means a lot to this country. And I think rugby league gets to play a small part. It's a very good part for obviously all of us watching and being passionate rugby league fans. We love it, but there's a lot more to it, isn't there?
There is. And Anzac Day it can be celebrated in different ways. Like people celebrate, people mourn, people reflect. And I think it's taken me till I was about 30 to realize the true meaning of Anzac Day. It wasn't just a day off. It wasn't just a day to go and hang out with your mates. I was never a big drinker anyway. So, I'm not a gambler either. So most of my experiences with Anzac Day were through those sorts of vessels. But It was when one of my really good mates, Nick, he's in the army at the moment, and still is. We went down and did the dawn service at Bondi, and it was absolutely spectacular. The amount of people that were there, the different type of people that were there just to pay their respects, and I think that's when it really clicked for me personally. And then teaching it at school, we've had many people come in and talk about how it's not so much of a celebration of war. It is about reflecting on those people who did give their lives, who were willing to serve, and just doing a little sort of thank you to those guys, because we are truly very lucky to live in Australia. There's many things that happen in the world that you think, no way would that happen here, and there's for good reason. So it is a wonderful day of reflection. And I think if you can get to a dawn service or any sort of service, whether it be dawn or 9:30, go and pay your respects and just go and have a chat with the person standing next to you, because their influence or their idea of Anzac Day might change yours, or might even bolster your idea of Anzac Day, because it's truly different for many different people. And as I said, it took me a couple of years to actually understand the true significance of the day, and a wonderful day of reflection.
It is one of those days where, for me, I take it as an opportunity to just really make sure I say thank you, and just to put myself in the shoes. Obviously, it's so hard to do, but just to think what they have gone through to give us the life and the opportunities that we all have now, which is something we'll never obviously get to say them to their face. Obviously, thank you, but we really do love and appreciate the sacrifices they have made. So,
and it's to
and
the
me
people that are
personally,
serving now as well, like the people that are serving today. So there are people that are deployed. There are people that are deployed here that do things behind the scenes that we don't know about. There's plenty of things that the public do not need to know about that they take care of. So it's a reflection on and a bit of a thank you to those wonderful people as well.
And just touch on the rugby league point of view, we're about to give our quick tips for all three games. But I personally, I get up in my lounge room as well each time they're doing the last post and stuff. I stand there silently for the minute, and just give my respects, as well as getting up in the mornings and pay my respects that way as well. So, Jesse, Mick, do you have anything to add to what Jez has said? I think he summed it up perfectly.
Yeah, no, Jez sums it up incredibly, to be honest with you. It's a lot of people in this country, I wouldn't say take for granted. They just don't understand the sort of things that these boys went through. You know what I mean? Like you do have to sit back and kind of just think about how hard it really was. And like these guys were half our age, man. Like we wouldn't even understand the trenches like they did. I've got a lot of
Honestly,
family
I
that
couldn't
did
do it now,
serve.
my age. It's
No chance.
ridiculous.
Yeah, no chance, man. I've got a lot of family that did serve as well. Going back, I was pretty heavily involved in the Air Force League and Air League and Air Force Cadets when I was younger, and was lucky enough to do quite a fair few dawn services, a few city marches, flag bearing, and the like. So it was really nice. And in these sort of times too, like you're walking down and you see some real decorated people, and you just ask, how were things? Like, tell me a story. And these guys will not stop. Like they love it. You know what I mean? Like that's what they're there for. They're just getting the recognition they deserve. And it's a shame that it takes, up to a certain point, it's one day a year for these guys where, they've had to live with this their whole lives. So you do have to step back and just, really think about it and appreciate them. But it's just a big day, I think, for a lot of Australians to just realize how lucky they are. There's a lot happening in the world, even now, like tonight in certain places, is a lot rougher than what we've got sitting here at home talking footy. So, yeah, just definitely don't take how good it is for granted in this country, at least. That's my little bit.
Mika,
Yeah.
it looks like you're about to just blow.
Yeah,
I
I
was
just didn't
waiting.
want to interrupt.
You're right, mate.
Yeah, I growing up, I probably didn't really. I was one of those people that didn't really get it. I didn't really have, well, even now, as far as I know, I didn't have any family members that were in any of the wars and stuff. But since I've married my wife, so her father's father, there's a lot of history there. My girls are lucky enough; both of them have been vice captains at their school. So tomorrow we're going to one of the ones up at Singleton, and my youngest daughter this year will wear some of his medals. My eldest daughter got to do it 2 years ago when she was vice captain at the school. We've since been to dawn services at Singleton Army Base. So since getting to that age of my life and understanding it a lot more, it becomes very, very apparent how important it is and the meaning behind it and what it means to the people who have actually got history to do with it. The biggest thing that for me that stands out footy-wise with it, and I'll mention my wife here again because she's not unlike me, not a massive footy fan, but somehow we always end up with the Anzac Day game on the TV. It's one thing that she always actually watches because I feel like it's one of the only minutes of silence during the year where we actually get a minute of silence. Like you see memorial ones for players or past players, there's always some idiots in the crowd that carry on. I feel like that St. George Roosters game, every single year you can hear a pin drop and it just gives you chills that we actually get that right for the right reason. So that's yeah.
On that, whether you're a fan of the Dragons or the Roosters, if you're just a rugby league fan in general, or just honestly get to the game, whether it's this year, I think it's pretty much sold out, but just one year, make sure you get your tickets because I've been twice, and it is honestly, as you said, Mika, it's spine tingling. It's a very small part, obviously, what the day stands for, but honestly, like I wasn't a fan. I had goosebumps, tears in the eyes, everything. It's so moving. And they do it so well. It's not a battle of codes or anything like that. It's not to try and push rugby league up, but seriously, like they do it just that well. They do deserve the credit they get for what they do tomorrow because now we're going to see it for 3 games, which we'll quickly talk about here. I can't wait to see the Warriors one because apparently there's something really big in the works over there in New Zealand. Their first time getting to do this. They're ready to do it. And honestly, the way they've done things lately as a club, I don't doubt them at all. I think this is going to be huge. So I can't wait. This is 2:00 against the Titans. Then we've spoken about the Dragons and the Roosters game, and then the Storm versus South Sydney game. So my tips for tomorrow, I'm going to lock in the Warriors. I keep going back and forth for the next one. I find it probably the hardest game of the round to tip. I'm just gonna lock in the Roosters simply because they have to. I think this is a game they literally have to win. Otherwise, huge question marks will start to be asked to the group of players. And I'll go to Storm. Jez, who you've got for the 3 games tomorrow?
For the first one, I've got the Warriors. I think they're Anzac at home. It's going to be quite a big occasion, and they're playing the Titans. So Warriors are going to get up there. Dragons Roosters, I think, will be probably the closest game out of the 3. I think I've tipped the Dragons because the Dragons are going like this, and I think it's time for them to bounce up again. So that's why I've tipped them. And then Storm Rabbits. Well, we all know how well the Storm are going and how well the Rabbits are going. So my tip is for the Storm there. The one thing that I really look forward to for that Storm game, it's normally against the Warriors, is the blackout that they do. So for their moment of silence, and as they walk out, there's only spotlights on the 2 teams. Everything else is dark. They normally have the flame going as well, so they do Anzac really, really well, and that's what I like watching.
Mika Martin, your brother's getting vocal now. He's finished his manicure.
Block him.
Good to see. What's your tips?
Report those comments. I've gone Warriors. I think they will be near on impossible to beat over there for their first Anzac Day. I think they'll win most of their home games this year anyway, but I think extra special tomorrow. I've gone Dragons because it doesn't matter how bad they're going, they always turn up for this game. And I just think at the moment, the way they've sort of shown they've turned a bit of a corner with defence compared to last year and how the Roosters have been up and down. And as Adam said, the halves the Roosters have got over calling each other. I think the Dragons will get up there. And I've gone Melbourne because, let's face it, Rabbitohs couldn't beat, I don't know, Denman. I am looking forward to hearing that last post in an empty stadium. Not an empty stadium, a quiet stadium. Like that last post when they do that before the game is just phenomenal. So, yeah, can't wait. Should be 3 really good games.
Jesse?
Yeah, I'm going Warriors too. I like that it's not Melbourne anymore, so it gives them a chance to win. But because it hasn't been a very good run for them in the past, it seems like every time Anzac Day comes around, it's just Melbourne's just going to sweep the Warriors. So they've given them the Titans at home, absolute walk in the park. So it'd be great to see. I'm really keen to see this pre-game thing. I've just been hearing so much about how massive it's going to be, so I'm so curious. But yeah, I think it'll be a drubbing, and for good reason. I've gone with the Roosters, naturally. Up the wires. Yeah, I've gone with the Roosters too, naturally. I'm not going to tip against them on Anzac Day. They do get the results majority of the time, but, it could go either way, honestly. It could be a 2-point game between them. So it's probably one of the best games of the year, I reckon, this one, between the Dragons and the Roosters. So very keen for that. And, yeah, definitely Melbourne. I don't think Rabbitohs could fight their way out of a wet paper bag at the moment. So, yeah, I'm just glad it's not the Warriors, so we can see some good teams win. But not saying Melbourne's much of a great side. They are a great side. Like seeing them lose, but I don't think they're going to this week. So
I didn't even realise the Warriors were playing the Titans until you mentioned it. I just sort of tipped the Warriors without looking who they were playing.
Just a home game for the Warriors. Yeah,
I've tipped them by 8. I'm going to just dial that up to about 30.
Well,
Yeah,
as
I was
Adam
wondering how
said in the
far up I
comments,
can
we
go.
might have 2 teams make the list tomorrow.
Yeah.
This bloody list, I keep getting it up as the teams are approaching, and then it's just the other teams stop scoring. Guys, we'll just take a couple of quick questions, and then we're out of here to get ready for obviously a massive day tomorrow. I'll bring up the couple that I did star from earlier in the episode. Jason, I think we had this question the other week, but we'll answer it again. Hope you're still on. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no? Yeah, thumbs down or thumbs up. I'm going thumbs. Oh, sorry, thumbs down.
Oh,
Hate pineapple. No, thank you. So
Pineapple on pizza is for children.
Yeah, grow up.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
Stick to
Adam.
mixing pineapple.
grow up.
Stick to mixing pineapple with vodka. That's where it goes. Pineapple
My wife
juice and
loves
vodka.
pineapple on pizza too.
Joey from the Ruck Encouragement podcast. Cheers for listening, mate. Shout out to the podcast. You guys are doing a great job as well. Are we putting a line through Para, Knights, South, and Raiders now? Yeah.
That's-
All 4 teams gone.
yeah, pretty much.
And we did say it on the Sunday show. I just want to quickly say it that I feel for Jamal Fogarty because he's been so good this year. I think he's actually leading, or if not second, on our League of Inches Player of the Year award as well. He's been phenomenal to start the year. So to have that, it's just a cruel blow, but and a cruel blow to the Raiders who have played quite well. But yeah, without their general on the field, their number 7, I can't see anything happening.
They're going to need that kicking game so much, hey? Like, I just don't see anyone else stepping up into that position for him.
Fuck off, Adam. Look at that
What have we
comment.
missed?
What a flop.
Oh my god, the fog will
It's
be
actually really good. No, that's
Seriously.
good areas. That is really good areas.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Give him that.
Here we go. Should the Bulldogs make a play for Cogger if he's unhappy at the Knights? Well, I haven't heard anything about him being unhappy, but I could imagine he probably is because for mine, he's the best playmaker at the Newcastle Knights and he can't even get a game at the moment. So, Jez, have you heard anything as a Knights fan or what? Because
No.
he's signed for like 3 or 4 years, hasn't he?
I was about to say, I don't think he's going anywhere for quite some time. So we're
think
waiting
like
for
2 months.
Hastings to get bullied out by the media, and then Cogger's in.
Yeah, you would
Come on,
assume
Bob.
he went there to play 7, right? Like he was stuck behind a 7. The reason he leaves is to get a starting 7. He would have been told he was going to be
Absolutely.
the 7. So maybe he isn't.
Yeah.
No offense here, but imagine
know
being
how many
stuck
rounds
behind
it's gonna
Nathan
take.
Cleary and then you go to Newcastle, you're like, oh, yeah, sweet. I'm not going to get stuck behind Jackson Hastings, surely.
Yeah.
Next minute, you're stuck behind Jackson Hastings as well. Oh, goodness me.
There's other
go.
players in the Knights roster that I would be making attempts for, and yeah, Cogger's not one of them.
Boys, does anyone here have a final question to end on? A good one, a funny one, a light-hearted, non-footy related question?
Yeah,
I've
quick,
got
get it
one.
in.
I think I got one. I'll go. Would you take your team winning the premiership this year, knowing that they'll never win a premiership ever again, and you have to live on the street for the rest of your life? Or
like-
Wait,
do
so
you
loaded.
take-
They got
Why
dark.
is
They
it so
got dark.
loaded? Just yeah, wow.
Hang on. Areas to end the show. And then the other option is your team you never get to watch your team win a premiership, but you get to live in a mansion for the rest of your life.
Which one are you, Joel? Because you can basically talk about the Eels for both of these.
Hey, Mick is an eel as well.
there you go.
I haven't
Sorry,
watched
Mick,
the
you
premiership
too.
yet.
Well, that's the thing. You've never seen one, but at least you get a mansion.
I was about to say,
Just take the
Does my
mention.
son
You're not
get
going
to
to see him
see
win a
them win?
premiership anyway.
I got an answer for this one. I would
Go on,
take
Mika.
never seeing Parramatta win because I've already doomed
You've basically
my
done that.
13-year-old daughter for a life of misery by
Set her up
making
for
her an
failure.
Eels fan, and I don't think we're ever going to win one. So I can't put her on the streets with us as well. So I'll
Yep.
take the mansion and give her a good home so she can at least be comfy while she watches the Eels suck ass.
Yeah, just turn the TV off. The
Exact
95-inch
same.
TV.
Exact
At
same
the moment,
areas there,
the
Michael.
players don't.
I've forced the Knights on Otis. I did say to him when Ponga got ruled out that he could choose a different team when he wants to. But yeah, I'll take the mansion, and then we're going to start following AFL. Up the Swans.
Yuck.
Cheer. Yeah, I'll probably take the mansion because at the moment the players don't give a shit about the club, so why should I? Last one, obviously tomorrow. We going heads or are a tails kind of men here? I'm going heads. Give us the heads.
Yeah, got to go head them up a little bit.
Yeah,
Flip flop.
head 'em
Heads,
up.
heads, tails, heads, tails, tails, heads. That's the form.
Oh, hang on, let me just in slow motion
Write
so
it
I can
down.
write that down.
Yeah, you got to stick with the
Always
same one. Haven't you heard of racketeering? You just got to double your bet every time because eventually it'll come up.
Yeah.
I won't be
it-
gambling
no.
tomorrow. I'll be spending the day with my wife and kids because I haven't seen them enough. So we'll do the march and then probably go back home and chill and watch the footy. But when I was younger, I was always on the head.
Oh my god!
I just like watching
okay.
my friends lose money. So that's what I did. It was great.
That's the best
Well,
part.
Adam
that's all we
Martin.
got. Yes, I 100%. And that's it, guys. That's all we've got time for. Jez, take us out, please. Do as you always do so well.
Maybe Kieran Martin will head him up.
Oh dear. Placing bets early, I see, Michael. Thank you to everyone except for Adam Martin for being in the comments and watching live. Thank you to those who shared the show. I think if we could get everybody who was in the comments to share, that would go a
hang
long
on
way
one
for the
sec.
page as well. And if you can recommend the podcast to anybody that enjoys rugby league, that would also go a very long way. We're still looking to fill some sponsorship things, plenty of things happening in the background. So if you know anyone that would like some sort of exposure through League of Inches or like to collaborate with us at League of Inches, please reach out to the page because there's plenty of opportunity when it comes to that as well. If you have any ideas for content, please send it through. We would love to use some of your talking points, and we love the guys that are already subscribed. A couple of their things featured last week, so please subscribe, get in those talking points, and you'll be featured heavily on our live shows and on our page. From Jesse, Joel, Mika, Adam in the comments, and myself, have a good night.
That was sensational. But I just need to stop the show for a second.
Oh, I'm not
because I
doing it
need to
again then.
address- No, that's it. I need to address something that has popped up. Annette has popped up here late, and it's just been doing my. It has been doing my head in. I've got to address it. It's a fan.
She didn't even get the. She didn't even get the bait in the water before you took that bite.
Oh my goodness.
You know what? Good
go,
night.
Go and say it. Go and say it. Do it. Do it. Do it.
All right, let's do it. I'm over this sort of discussion because you can be a fan of your club no matter what club it is. We've seen it tonight with the Knights. We've seen it before with myself or Adam, Mika, with the Eels. I'm sure Jesse at times has said it with the Roosters. Just because you're a supporter of your club does not mean you can't say anything negative about them or you can't hold the club accountable for what they are actually doing. I feel like you're a true supporter if you can show your emotion and actually call the club out when times are tough and not just keep patting them on the back for continuous errors and the like. But that is all I have to say there because I'm over talking about the Eels.
I feel
I
like
don't know.
a true fan will call their team out for being dog shit when they are.
Yeah, because then if you
Who else is
don't,
gonna
you're
do
not a
it?
fan. You're a fan
Yeah.
boy. You're a fan girl. Like you
Yeah,
should
like,
be
well,
able to
things are
speak
all-
honestly.
Things are all well and good when they're winning, but when they're losing, you're like, if you're like, oh, whatever, like, no, that's not good enough. Call them out. If they're doing shit, they're performing shit, the attitude's shit, then they're shit. If it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. the team sucks, you have to say something. I just don't get it. But
Thanks,
Got a really good quote to wrap this up. Being held accountable may feel like an attack if you're not ready to acknowledge how your poor decisions and actions will impact others.
I feel like that was
And
on
I've
a
got
post